Good day, everyone. Ito yung ating next module for week 12 and 13. Dalawang week siya. No? So, possibly, if babalik yung ating face-to-face by next meeting or next week, proceed tayo sa week 14. If in case matapos natin ito this week, so proceed, dire-diretso lang tayo, no? Para at least okay na rin yun. Hindi kulang yung ating magiging discussion. Makukumpleto natin yung mga modules natin for this final period. So, ang title ng ating topic would be Network Security. So, malaki ang relevance nito, no? Sa subject natin kasi isa ito sa mga key factors na kailangan nating maintindihan. Again, paulit-ulit tayo dyan, if we are to implement security, no, in our network, not just in our network, but also in our computer systems, no, data assets, at sa lahat na ng aspect ng information technology na meron tayong kailangan protektahan. So, this time, nakapokus naman ito into one specific singularity, which is the network. So, malaki, no, ang relation ng isang network para sa process ng isang organization, especially if we're talking about business process na naka-network. Alam naman natin yan na pag sinabi natin business yan, talagang yan. Meron silang computer networks. Okay? So, define muna natin si network, no? Si network, technically, it consists of two or more than devices. So, it can be 2, 3, 4, depending on the size of the network infrastructure, meron ang isang organization. No? Not just in an organization, but also applicable to a small company. Kasi hindi naman lahat ng mga kumpanya, masasabi nating corporation or maraming nagmamayari. Merong mga micro and small business enterprises na meron din namang mga network. No? And these devices are linked together para makapag-share sila ng resources. And at the same time, makapag-provide ng communication. So, this being said, we understand clearly now that there has been data circulating over that particular network na binabanggit. Okay? So, ayan. Ang question nga dyan is, can you think of various forms of a network? I guess na-define ko na yan a while ago kung ano-ano yung mga possible na maging network. Kahit sa sarili ninyong bahay, kung meron kayong mga devices dyan, like for example, na huwag na tayo masyadong lumayo. Meron kayong router or Wi-Fi sa inyong bahay, definitely that is a type of a network. Alam na naman natin yan, di ba? As long as we are connecting to that device, kahit ilan pang mga devices ang kukonekta doon sa networking device na yan, network ang tawag ko dyan. Okay? Alam natin yan kasi sa packet tracer naman natin, sa mga activities natin sa mga activities natin sa packet tracer, we came to understand na pwede na kayong gumawa actually ng isang network, kahit personal area network pa yan, having a single networking device such as router, no? O kaya naman, pwede namang switch, yung mga previous networking devices na gamit na natin, eventually, gumawa na kayo ng network doon, no? And yan, meron tayong mga example dito ng mga iba't ibang computer networks na ito yung mga processes, no, na pwedeng i-provide ng isang network. So, let's say for example, unahin mo natin sige from the right side, no? If you are connected to the internet, definitely pwede ka mag-download ng music. Hindi lang music, any other multimedia files, kagaya ng mga videos, no? And of course, yung mga text files, pictures, or images, pwede ka mag-download niyan. And even software, pwede mong i-download. Pero of course, there will always be that particular question, is it legit to download or kailangan ba nating magbayad? No? So, Ganun kasi talaga ang process. If you are to download contents over the internet, merong mga software na libre, and majority of those softwares may mga bayad. Now, if you're into downloading in a different approach, yung pagpapirate ng mga, mga internet content, then hindi po yan natin in-advise, no? So, I know you understand that there is a law na nag-enforce para maiwasan yung mga illegal downloading or should we say piracy. Di ba? Another example ng isang service na ipino-provide, no, ng isang internet along with the computer networks is yung chatting. Yan, napaka-common yan. Especially kayo, no? Hindi na ito strange territory sa inyo kasi you've been doing this or you've been using this for as often as you can. Di ba? Meron lang kayong data connection, no? Meron kayong load. Pwede na kayo makipag-chat sa inyong mga friends, no? Loved ones, and any other people. Like for example, ngayon, yung ginagawa natin, tayo ay umaatin ng klase natin online. This is actually a form of a chatting, pero video chatting po ito, no? And mas pinaganda pa nila yung tawag, this time ang tawag na video conferencing kasi we're having a conference right now, no? And then of course email, yan isa yan sa mga major contributors, no, ng isang internet service, yung email na yan. Kasi actually before naging popular ang isang video chatting or video conferencing, email muna ang nauna. Sa bagay, way back early or in the middle of 1990s, hindi pa ganoon ka-popular ang mga video chat program or application, yung mga messenger, hindi pa siya ganoon ka-popular. So if you wish to communicate with the other person, no, tapos wala kang way to be with him or be with her personally, and then wala ka rin namang budget or any amount para sa long distance call, email ang iyong pinaka-best option. And one good thing about the email, of course, is hindi yan kagaya ng snail mail. Pag sinabi nating snail mail, ito yung sulat mismo, handwritten po ito. Tapos dadalhin ninyo sa post office, sa munisipyo, ihuhulog ninyo sa koreo. Lalagyan nyo ng stamp yan, tapos of course, sa labas, yung letter ninyo is nakasobri yan. I'm not sure kung familiar pa kayo sa proseso ng pagpapadala ng sulat. Snail mail. So, merong sobre, no? Airmail ang tawag ng sobre na yun. Sa labas noon, isusulat mo yung pangalan mo, address mo, tapos sa baba naman noon, isusulat mo yung receiver's name, saka yung address niya. So, yun yung snail mail. I guess kaya tinawag na snail mail yan is because mabagal kasi ang pagdating niyan doon sa recipient. Snail means suso. Diba yung ginagataan? Tapos sinusupsop? Ayun. Yun yung snail mail. So, it would take, depending on the location, it would take how many days bago yan ma-receive nung recipient or the person you are trying to communicate. Days po ang aabutin yan. Kahit sabihin natin, sir, I'm living in Las Piñas, pero ang gusto ko, susulatan ko yung taga Bulacan. How long will it take for that letter to arrive? Possibly mga 1 to 2 days. Depende yan sa proseso ng pagdi-deliver nila ng sulat. Kasi as far as I'm concerned, yung mga delivery truck, no? Delivery truck tawag doon pero it's just a small truck na nagdadala ng mga sulat. So basically, ang gagawin niyan is to zone out the area. For example, kung yung post office sa Manila, magde-deliver sila somewhere in the north, so iisahin na lang nila yon, no? Babaybayin nila yung norte. For example, isa-sort out yung mga letters. Merong sulat dito, papuntang Bulacan. Merong sulat papuntang Pampanga. Tapos merong sulat papuntang Nueva Ecija. Merong sulat papuntang Aurora, no? And the rest of the north areas. So, iisahin po yun, iisahin biyahe yun. Siyempre, consideration dyan is yung mileage. sayang ang gas. Diba? Ngayon, although meron pa rin namang mga gumagawa ng snail mail, pero hindi na ganun ka, hindi na ganun ka dami yung volume ng mga sulat na ipinapadala. Kasi people are now in a different approach, mas mabilis, technically accurate, no? Ang email kasi, pag nag-send ka ng email, seconds lang, nandun na kagad sa recipient yan. Marireceive na kagad yan. Tapos kung sakaling online, naka-online naman yung recipient, pwede kagad siyang mag-reply in that email. So, kahit sa ang panig pa ng mundo, nagko-communicate yung dalawa. With just a matter of seconds, no? Talagang magkakaroon na kagad ng exchange of communication and information as well. Tapos, na-develop pa yung video chatting, email service medyo hindi na masyadong tinatangkilik ng mga user. Diba? Tanungin ko kayo, when was the last time you opened your email? Diba? I'm referring to the email, yung nasa inbox. Kasi baka mamaya sabihin niyo, sir, ginamit namin yan. Diba? Mga 2 or 3 weeks ago, nung nag-midterm tayo. Gmail account niyo ang inyong in-access. Sabagay, yung email, nandun din naman kasi yung link nandun nga naman, diba? Pero what I'm trying to say is, hindi niyo yan ginagamit araw-araw. Pero pag nagtrabaho na po kayo, no? Pag nagtrabaho na po kayo, marami pa rin kasing mga kumpanya na ang polisiya nila, pagka kayo ay sasagot sa mga queries ng inyong client or ng inyong customer o kaya naman message from your supervisor, no? Kailangan yung buksan ng inyong email. Your supervisor will not video chat you. Hindi yan mag-aaksaya ng oras para tawagan ka through your messenger, no? Kasi they are trying to impose professionalism in their work. Kaya email talaga lagi ang way of communication pagka kayo po ay nasa industriya na o pagka kayo ay nasa corporate world na. Another services or service rather na ibinibigay ng or provide ng isang internet, ayan, yung mga social networking sites. Siyempre, the most popular is Facebook. Diba? Facebook po hindi po Instagram. Alright? Kasi ang Facebook, ang may-ari ng Instagram. Ang Facebook kasi, kung bibigyan natin ng magandang definition si Facebook, Facebook is like a mini world Isa na yung maliit na mundo. Diba? Parang ano yun parang, masyado namang ambitious yung binanggit natin. Sige, banggitin na lang natin siyang isang maliit na community. Yan. Kasi bakit? Nandiyan na lahat sa Facebook. If we are to discuss about virtual world, no? Ang Facebook ay isang maliit na community. Para siyang, example, dun sa May Las Piñas, para siyang BF Resort. Para mabuhay ka, hindi mo na kailangan lumabas ng BF Resort. Kasi, unang-una, may hospital na dyan. Diba? May mga clinics dyan. May mga food establishments dyan, may mga parlor dyan, may bangko, may mga eskwelahan, may supermarket. Diba? So, kumbaga, all the basic necessities in life ng isang tao, nandiyan dyan na sa lugar na yan. So, si Facebook parang ganun din. Okay? So, if you have any idea about what I have just said, pwede kayong mag-share kung ano pa yung inyong idea. Kasi hindi naman natin alam lahat. Ako, what I'm trying to tell you guys is those things na medyo aware tayo. So, if you want to share something, wag po kayong mahiyang mag-share. Mas maganda nga yan para at least gumanda-ganda ang ating discussion. Klaro tayo dyan? Okay, so another thing. Ayan, homework. Hindi lang natin to masyadong hindi lang natin to masyadong ni-utilize. Pero sa ibang eskwelahan kasi, especially sa mga private schools, no? Ganyan ang way nila ng pagpapadala or pagre-respond sa kanilang mga assignment. So, technically, ang professor magbibigay ng assignment yan, tapos magbibigay din siya ng instructions na isend yung mga homework na lang. So, possibly doon sa domain na provided ng eskwelahan kung saan nagtuturo yung teacher, doon sa kanya pong email address. No? Kaya naman sa kanyang personal email address, pwedeng doon. Well, ginagamit din naman natin, pero hindi ganun kadalas. But definitely, this week ng atin pong online class, hindi man ako sure, pero I think there will be some of your professors in our school na ganyan din ang gagawin nila. I-require nila na na isend ninyo ang inyong mga assignment doon sa kanilang possibly mga email. Sa kaso natin, sa subject nating ITSM, ako may ginawa na akong way para ma-send na ninyo yung inyong mga activities naman. 'Di ba? Sana nag-check kayo ng inyong Google Classroom kasi the other day nag-send ako or nag-post ako ng message sa Classroom telling you guys na yung ating activities, no, sa Pocket Tracer, doon na ninyo isi-send sa Google Drive na sinend ko or pinost ko sa inyong Google Classroom. Di ba? So, doon na kayo mag-send, no? Doon na lang ninyo i-upload sa Google Drive na sinend ko sa inyong mga Google Classroom, yung inyong mga activity. Mas maganda na rin to para, hindi na tayo mag-print. Pasensya na nung mga nakaraang semesters natin na nire-require ko kayo na na mag-print ng inyong mga activities. Kasi, to be honest, gagawin kong reference yun sa mga susunod kong klase. Ipapakita ko sa kanila yung inyong mga gawa na, class, ganito yung project ninyo, ganito yung magiging approach ng inyong project, no? So, you need to print this out para magkaroon din sila ng idea. Now, since na we've been doing this for quite some time, so iniba ko na po, no, yung approach para mas convenient to everybody, especially on your part. Kasi pagkatapos mong gawin yung activity, convert mo lang siya into a PDF, tapos upload mo na doon sa Google Drive na sinend ko sa inyo. PDF na lang po para madali ko siyang ma-view. Kasi yung iba sa inyo baka gumagamit ng ibang office. Ito na-experience ko rin naman ito especially last online classes na may pandemic pa. Na yung mga estudyante, no? I-require mo na mag-send ng kanilang mga files. Tapos gagamit ng office. The problem is ibang office yung ginagamit. Ang hirap buksan. So, kung naka-PDF yan, wala nang problema kasi I can just easily view it in a browser. So, I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. Madali lang po mag-convert ng PDF. No? Punta lang kayo sa file, tapos, hindi po save as, file, tapos, nakalimutan ko. No, punta kayo click nyo yung file, tapos, click nyo yung export. Click nyo yung export option, tapos pag-click niyo ng export, nilalabas po doon na button na nakalagay create PDS. So click nyo lang yung create PDS na yun, tapos publish lang niyo para mag-create siya ng PDF file. Para dito ko lang nabiview rin sa browser at madali ang checking. Okay? So lahat ng mga yan, ng mga services na yan, although internet ang parang nag-ooperate yan, technically merong kinalaman po ang isang computer networks dyan kasi lahat ng mga devices na ginamit dyan para to access the internet, they are all part ng isang computer network. Okay, next. Another thing. Kung may computer networks, meron din naman, of course, phone networks. Na ito yung common ngayon. The good thing about the phone networks is, especially the mobile phone, affordable na siya ngayon . You might disagree with me, pero kung ikukumpara mo ang presyo ng cellphone ngayon sa presyo ng cellphone ng araw, you will definitely agree with me. O nga sir, no? Mas mura nga ngayon. Yes, totoo yan. Kasi cellphone ngayon halagang 2 3,000, 5,000. Maganda-ganda na ang phone mo. Nung araw, yan, for example, itong mamang ito, yung business call. Meron ba kayong idea kung magkano yung cellphone na gamit-gamit niya? Nagkakahalaga ng mga 20,000 yan. Tapos, hindi pa hindi pa yan ganun ka high-end na phone. Etong phone na ito, this one, nakalagay na text messaging. This is an example of a PDA. No, PDA po yan. Hindi po personal display of affection. PDA stands for Personal Digital Assistance. Tingnan natin sa net, no? Ang itsura ng mga PDA. Ito. Ayan, no? So, this one, yung may stylus pa. Yan. So, normally, ang isang taong merong PDA, ano po yan? If they are not a businessman, sila po yung mga medical practitioner. No? So, ibig sabihin, if you're a common citizen, estudyante ka, let's say, tapos you're just an average student, sorry to say, no offense, pero you cannot afford this kind of device. Kasi pang ano lang yan pang may mga business lang ang gumagamit niyan, mga executive, mga professionals. These are the only people that can afford this device. Nakuha nyo? Ang point dito is, hindi lahat po ng tao nung mga panahon na yan pwedeng mag-acquire ng device. Nung araw kasi, pag meron kang halibawang cellphone, people will ask you, what do you do for a living? Ganon Ganon talaga ang sistema nung araw. Kumbaga, a lot of people will not expect that a simple and common person like you will possess a device. Kumbaga parang it's not ordinary, no? Kumbaga, it's not a common occurrence. So meaning to say, ang mga tao nung araw, pag meron silang device, these are the people who can afford to buy this device. Kasi mahal ang mga device nung araw. Yan, yung nasa screen natin na yan, no? Nagkakahalaga na yan ng mga 40 to 50,000. Di ba? Kaya nga, tinan naman yung tsura ng tinan yung kamay ng di ba? Parang, hindi lang kompleto yung picture, pero it looks like yung, the person who is trying to use or accessing the device is a professional. So, babalik tayo sa sinabi ko kanina, na ngayon, kahit simpleng tao lang can now afford to purchase this device. Kasi nga, meron ka lang 2,000, 3,000 phone. Di ba? Magkano lang naman yung 2,000, 3,000. Sa panahon ngayon, parang ang liit na lang ng value niya. Kaya, mas swerte yung mga tao ngayon, especially kayo, na mga estudyante pa lang kayo, majority of you, wala pa kayong mga trabaho. But, you have your own device. Nung araw talaga, medyo, kumbaga, gaganon yung kilikili ng mga tao na sasabihin nila, bakit ka merong cellphone? Mayaman ka ba? Anak ka ba ng mayaman? Ngayon, di ba, yung cellphone parang ordinaryo na lang. It's like, ano na yan part na yan ng ating starter pack. Let's say, for example, lalabas tayo ng bahay, kasama na yan sa tatawag nating starter pack, di ba, na dapat meron kang, let's say, meron kang powder, meron kang bimpo, meron kang cologne, ano ba? Kung ikaw ay babae, meron kang makeup, di ba, meron kang mga wipes, yung pamuna sa mukha. Tapos, siyempre, kasama yung cellphone. Nung araw, hindi. Di ba? Magkaroon ka nga lang ng cellphone na yung two-line na cellphone lang. Ano na yan, privilege na yan nung araw. Diba? Kumbaga, ang mga tao nun, paglalabas ng bahay, ang dala lang, panyo, tsaka wallet. Ayos na. Sa mga lalaki yun, pero sa mga babae, syempre, may mga powder pa naman sila. What I'm trying to say is, it's not a common scenario para sa isang ordinary people na magkaroon ng device ng araw. Kasi nga, sobrang mahal ng mga devices ng araw. Diba? Ngayon, pag wala kang phone, ano tingin sa'yo ng tao? Ganun naman talaga sad to say, yun po ang reality ng ating mundo. If you don't have this kind of necessity in life, other people will look at you as, poor being. Ganun talaga eh. Yan ang ating human nature po yan, na ang tao ay isang judgmental. Alright? Going back, huwag na tayo masyado mag-judgmental dyan. So maraming ginagawa ang phone networks, no? Call friend, business call, call mo yung mga loved ones mo. Ayan. So technically yan, hindi lang yan actually. Hindi nga lang to updated itong ating slide na ito eh, no? Pero marami pang ginagawa ang isang phone. Alam naman din yan, di ba? Online gaming, di ba? Kumbaga yung phone is yun. Ang mga phone natin ngayon class is actually parang silang alter ego natin. Kumbaga parang sila yung parang sila yung replica natin. Kasi yung cellphone natin na yan, ginagamit natin yan na most time of the day. Diba? Aminin nyo man o hindi, talagang mayroong mga tao na hindi mabuhay pag walang cellphone. No? Ito yung mga taong wag ninyong yayayaing mag-trekking. Diba yung akit ng bundok? Nako, wag ninyong yayayain yung mga taong yan. Because they will never appreciate yung mga ganyan na Kasi talagang may mga tao naman ganyan eh. And then we cannot blame these people kasi yun ang preferences nila eh. Di ba? So lahat na halos ng mga activities na pwede nating gawin, merong assistance yung ating phone. Alam naman natin yan eh kasi nga alter ego natin yung phone. It's like a replica of ourselves. Kaya importante talaga ang cellphone ngayon. Tapos meron ka pang internet. Wow, you have the best in the world. The information is actually open. No? As long as you have this kind of smart device, tapos meron ka pang internet connection, the information is right on your fingertips. Satellite networks, ito, maganda naman ang ginagawa ng satellite networks. Kasi yung mga signal natin sa internet, dyan naman talaga nanggagaling. Diba? Wala namang iba eh. Saan na nanggagaling yan? Sir, sa ano nanggagaling yan? Sa mga cell site. Yes. Yung cell site mo, saan magaling yung cell site, for everybody's information. Receiver po yan. Yan po ay isang klase ng receiver. Bakit tinawag na receiver yan, sir? Kasi nagre-receive yan ng signal from the satellite. And then, transmitter din siya at the same time, yung cell site. Kasi, pagka-receive niya ng signal from the satellite, ibabato naman niya yung signal doon sa mga devices na nakakonekta sa kanya. So, receiver, transmitter at the same time. Tingnan natin yung operation na ipinakita dito, no? Sa atin pong illustration. Ayan. Satellite networks nag-provide ng signal kay satellite dish, no? Satellite dish pwede rin pong cell site. Tapos yung signal na yan, baliktad. Dito muna tayo. Sa left side muna tayo, left side. There is a football game happening in Europe. And this game is being covered by media. No, kasi may mga cameraman, di ba? Yan, no? May mga cameraman tayo dito. Kino-cover nila yung football game. And then, itong mga cameraman na ito, para mapanood ng ibang tao yung kanilang kino-cover, ipinapadala nila yung streaming or yung broadcast sa isang dish network or sa isang cell site. So, si cell site, receiver siya this time. Ang ginawa naman, ngayon, paano mapapanood naman yan sa ibang panig pa ng mundo? Yung cell site na yan or yung dish network na yan, ipapadala naman niya yung signal kay satellite. So technically, ang data nanggaling sa ground. Okay? Nanggaling sa ground ang data. Tapos, using the help of a dish network, ipinadala ni dish network ang signal or ang stream kay satellite networks. Ngayon, para mapanood dyan sa ibang panig ng mundo, ang ginawa naman ni satellite is ibinato niya yung signal doon sa dish network na meron doon sa area na yun. Tapos si dish network naman na yan, dinistribute naman niya yung broadcast or yung stream sa iba't ibang devices na kumokonekta sa kanya. Kaya kung mapapansin niyo, nasa Europe yung data or yung streaming, pinapanood sa USA. Diba? So merong merong malaking ano yan, difference, no? Especially in the location. Kasi Europe is on the western side of the world. Ang America na, Ang Europe is nasa may bandang gitna ng mundo natin. If we're going to look at the map, the world map, nasa may bandang gitna yan. Tapos ang USA is nasa bandang pinaka-western. Parang ano sila northwest portion ng ating pong mapa, world map. Diba? So there is a boundary, there is somehow separation ng land area kasi kailangan mo mag-cross ocean, no? In between these two regions. So using, of course, the help of these transmitter and receiver devices, kagaya ng dish network at saka ng satellite network, the game is now being watched live and real time. Yan ang kagandahan ng technology natin, mga kaibigan. No? Welcome to the 21st century. Okay? Ano ba si security? It is the act ng pagpoprotekta sa isang tao, sa mga ari-arian, o kaya naman ng isang organisasyon laban sa anumang klase ng atake. Diba? Now, of course, if we are going to provide an example ng attack on a person, marami. Have you been a victim of an attack? Siyempre, siguro meron, di ba? Others are too personal. Hindi mo natin kailangang alamin yan. But if you become, or if you are a victim of an attack by other person, so medyo traumatic yan. Diba? It can be physically, or it can be emotionally, or sometimes financially. Basta, kung ang atake ay nanggaling sa ibang tao, then definitely, yan, attack on a person po ang category niya. Diba? Ako, marami din akong mga experiences ng ganyan. Meron nga akong isang experience na nakasakay ako sa jeep. Nandun ako sa may estribo, katabi ko yung driver. Siyempre, pag nandun ka sa may unahan, di ba nakalabas yung kanang paa mo, ay yung kanang binti mo, nakalabas dun sa barandilya ng jeep. Di ba? Tapos meron yata isang may aning-aning, sinuntok yung tuhod ko. No? Sinuntok yung tuhod ko. Nakakatawa nga yung siksenang yun. Siyempre, magagalit ako ng tendency. Kasi umandar na yung jeep eh. Hindi na ako nakabawi. Eh kung bababa ako, sayang pamasahe. No? Pero marami talagang tayong mga experience na minsan nakakatawa, minsan nakakainis, minsan frustrated because of an attack on a person. Attack on a property, maraming cases din yan. For example, yung property mo. Ito, nangyayari ito sa mga may farm. No? Na, for example, yung pamilya ninyo, nagmamay-ari kayo ng isang farm, tapos may mga tanim kayo dyan, pero may mga wild animals na pinepeste, no? Or kinakain or sinasabotahe yung inyong mga pananim. Diba? Sa ano nga, sa Amerika eh. For example, sa mga mountainous area ng Amerika, like for example, Arkansas, West Virginia, Texas, no? Ang ginagawa ng mga farm owner doon, talagang nilalagyan nila ng bakod yung kanilang mga farm. Kasi nga, may mga wild animals like coyote, minsan yung mga bears, no? Inaatake yung kanilang mga livestock. Diba? Yan, yung mga ganun. Okay naman, arson. No? Merong somebody na inggit siguro sa lifestyle ninyo, sinunog yung bahay ninyo, nakon wood, huwag naman sana. But yes, this incident or event or unfortunate event can happen. Alright? Attack on an organization, possible niyan. Yung mga network server nila is being attacked, no, by a hacker. Who knows? As what I have mentioned in our previous discussion, ang atake po, unpredictable yan. No one can predict that the data resources are being attacked. Diba? Wala kang kahit sabihin natin napakagaling mong IT professional, but there's no way for you to predict that an attack is going on. Ano ang pwede nating gawing definition pag ina-atake yung ating network server o yung ating data assets is the next time you use it, iba na yung behavior ng network mo. Tapos somehow nawawala yung mga files, di ba? Yun, doon mo pa lang masasabi na nagkaroon na ng attack sa inyong organization. Pero yung currently yung ano mo ina-atake or masasabi mo na aatakihin yung ano mo, you can say na there will be a possible attack na pwedeng mangyari, but yung time, yung day, hindi mo pwedeng sabihin kung kailan mangyayari. Di ba? Kasi unang-una, hindi mo naman nababasa yung isip ng isang tao. So how can you tell na aatakihin yung iyong network server or yung data assets mo, di ba? So basically ganun. Ngayon, bakit natin kailangan ng network security? I think the answer is very, very obvious already. The very main reason for us why do we need a network security is of course to protect our assets. Lahat na po yan, network servers, data assets, information natin, yung mga sensitive and critical information, gusto nating gusto nating pangalagaan yan. And of course, the reason why kung bakit natin kailangan ng network security because yun nga, bad guy listens to the communication. So sila yung mga tinatawag natin attackers, cyber attackers, hackers. Yan, kasi bakit? Pwede nilang malaman yung mga data eh. Like for example yan, yung email ni Alice Jack. Nalaman yung kanyang mga personal information. Along with her details, pati na rin yung kanyang mga credit card number at saka ng medical records. Wow, delikado po yan. Pag yan ang nalaman ng mga kasi other people who are trying to steal those information might use the information in a not so positive way. Di ba? And alam din ng bad guy na yan kung saan galing or saan nag-generate yung data ni Alice Jack doon sa isang school nurse na siya yung nag-encode. And hindi naman kasalanan ng school nurse yun, siyempre. Trabaho niya na i-encode yung yung profile ng isang estudyante. Di ba? Paano sila magkakaroon ng record ng estudyante kung hindi niya ni-encode? Just so happen na meron lang talagang bad guy na yun, nakialam doon sa sa record ng school. Okay? Ito sabi dito. Can you think of ways that a bad guy can use the data he obtains to cause harm or attack? Maraming example niyan. Diba? Maraming reason kung bakit na inaatake yan. And base ron sa ating mga napag-usapan previously, the reason why these attackers are doing this is because they want to gain financial aspect. Diba? Mostly puro talaga yan. Puro mga related talaga ang pera. May kinalaman talaga ang pera dyan. Diba? Kasi itong data na to, possible yan, mga bank account details na nandiyan dyan, o kaya naman, itong attacker na ito, merong nag-hire sa kanya na to access this data, tapos babayaran siya. So you can just think of any possible way. And then, meron ba tayong way to prevent a bad guy from having access dun sa ating mga data at saka mga information? Marami po. Marami tayong way. But the efficiency of those ways are not guaranteed na effective siya. Kasi, class, you have to understand this. Kung sasabihin talaga natin yung ways na yan, napaka-effective, bakit nagkakaroon pa ng Bakit nagkakaroon pa ng mga tinatawag natin cyber attacks? Diba? Hindi natin ma-test kung gaano kagaling kasi yung isang hacker. Malalaman lang natin na magaling yung hacker na yan pagka halimbawang yung platform mo na mayroong mga security, tad ng mga firewalls yan, tapos for some reason, na breach pa rin ng attacker yan, doon natin masasabi na magaling itong attacker na ito. That's the only justification that we can say. Kasi alam mo sa sarili mo na tad na ng security measures yan. Pero bakit napasok pa rin ng attacker? So, ibig sabihin, magaling yung attacker. Common sense yun. And take note ha, sinabi ko sa inyo before na itong mga attacker na ito, they are not a simple programmer only. Hindi sila yung mga pipitsuging programmer. Mga ano yan, mga magagaling sa computer yung mga yan. Who will attempt to attack a network na wala naman siyang idea sa ginagawa niya, di ba? Meron yan. Actually, some of these attackers nga, mga genius pa yan. Mga genius pa yan sa computer. Yun nga lang, no? Talagang hindi nagamit yung kanilang kagalingan sa mabuting paraan. Instead, sa masamang paraan pa nila ginamit. May mga tao kasi na, ang gusto, easy money. Ayaw paghirapan yung kinikita. Okay? Kung may tinamaan sa inyo dyan, wala po akong pinapatamaan, ha? Pero kung tinamaan kasi sinabi ko, buti nga sa'yo. Okay? May question po ba kayo? Or you want to share something? Open tayo dito ha. Pwede kayong mag-share anytime kung meron kayong ano. You can always, of course, interrupt me. Walang problema dyan. Magsabi lang po kayo kung ano yung inyong pwedeng, yung inyong gustong i-share sa atin. Define natin si firewall. Ayan, si firewall. Of course, may idea na rin tayo dito kung ano ang ginagawa niyan. No? Kung para saan ba siya. Well, firewall primarily designed to protect the network. No? System yan. Ayan. To protect a computer or a computer network from any type of network-based attacks. Yan naman talaga yan naman talaga ang target talaga ng mga attackers. No? Mga network-based po talaga lagi. Kasi common sense na yung data and yung information nasa network. No? Doon naka-reside yan. Nasa network server yan. And ginagawa ito ng firewall do this by filtering the data packets na dumadaan sa network. Iyan ang magandang ginagawa ng firewall. Ang data po, ang data, pagka po yan ay i-store na sa isang network server. For example, may papasok na data sa network server, ang laman, ang volume ng data na yan is, let's say, 3.5 gig. Hindi po yan papasok sa network ng buong 3.5 gig dahil napakalaki po yan. Hindi yan kakasya doon sa tinatawag nating tunnel. May tunnel yan eh. Hindi mo nga lang makikita pero I'm referring to the virtual tunnel. Hindi po kakasya sa tunnel ang isang buong 3.5 size ng data. Anong ginagawa? Ginigiling muna yan. Yung tunnel na yan has the ability to convert that large amount of data into small data. Ang tawag po doon, data packets. Ngayon, ang ginagawa ng firewall, siya yung parang Q&A, quality assurance po yan. Yung dumadaan ng mga maliliit na packets of data, tinitingnan niya yan, isa-isa niya yan. Diba? At kung hindi necessary yung data na yan, di niya papayagang pumasok sa network. Ang tawag doon, filtering. Nakuha? Nakuha po ba? Okay. Now, a typical perimeter firewall is implemented with 2 or more network connections. Depende po yan. Di nga lang 2 eh. Sabagay, nakalagay naman dyan, 2 or more. Merong ibang mga kumpanya na 5 ang firewall. Meron 10 ang firewall. Whether you believe it or not, yes. Meron talagang ganun. So, well, ginagawa yun siyempre para pahirapan itong mga attackers na ito. If in case ma-breach niya yung unang firewall, sige, 9 to go. Parang ganun, di ba? Kung 10 yung firewall mo. Na-breach mo na yung unang firewall. You still have 9 to go. But before you can even reach the 5 firewall, meron ng countermeasure na ginagawa, yung network security. Sir, kala ko ba hindi ma-detect yung attack? Hindi nga ma-detect yan. Kaso, yung firewall, merong ability yan na mag-log. Merong mag-log, LOG ba? Ilalag niya yung activity ng network. Na-detect doon sa network na yung firewall mo parang may nagko-configure. O yun. Aayusin na ngayon yun ng mga network admin. Diba? Nakuha niyo ba idea doon? So ngayon, ganun ang gagawin nila. Although, Hindi man klarong atake yan. Pero pag merong nangyayaring somehow, nag-iiba yung setting ng firewall, tinitreat na kagad ng mga administrator yan as red alert. Kaya ang ginagawa nila, nire-reconfig kagad nila yan. Kumbaga, parang inaayos na kagad nila. Hindi na nila inaantay na masira pa. They treat it very, very seriously, whether it is an attack or whether it is a virus. Bagay, ang virus din naman is an attack on network. Kaya they treat it very, very seriously. Otherwise, kasi sila rin ang mahihirapan pagka hindi nila kagad inayos yan. Kaya they work almost immediately. Pag nalaman nilang yung something is going on with the firewall, chinecheck na kagad nila yan. Di ba? Now, si firewall, for another explanation, is a connection to the network is protected. Ito po yung kanyang parang pinaka-statement. It will tell the administrator that the connection of the network is protected. And it is a connection also to an external network. So, kung meron tayong internal, meron din po tayong external network. Kasi unang-una, yung mga pumapasok na data, galing yan sa external. Di ba? Galing yan sa external. Maraming avenues na pinanggagalingan ng data. Mostly galing yan sa internet process. Di ba? Or internet activities. Like for example, email yan. No? Email. Tapos yung email na yan, merong mga attached files yan na kailangang i-save sa network ninyo. So basically, yung email na yan, galing yan, ang nag-operate niyan, internet. Makakapag-email ka ba kung wala ka internet? Di ba? So technically, sa kanya manggagaling yan, papasok ng network. So ang gagawin ni firewall is to filter the data packets before niya i-allow na pumasok sa network yung email na yan na merong attached file. See? That's the very basic explanation to that. Para hindi kayo masyadong mahirapan. Ano yun natin yan? Padaliin natin ang explanation to that. Kung paano mangyayari na yung isang data pumapasok ng isang network. Alright? And then we have here the OSI model. Ayan, baliktad yung kanyang baliktad yung kanyang numbering. Ganun naman talaga Siyempre, unahin mo na yung pinaka-least. Okay? Now, si OSI model is, of course, network security requirement po yan. No? Kaya naman po pinag-aaralan lagi yung OSI. OSI means Open Systems Interconnect Reference Model. And it is a conceptual model na ginawa by the International Organization for Standardization. Ayan po si ISO. Lupit, di ba? Si ISO, nabanggit na rin natin yan in our previous discussion. Organization po yan. Sir, alam ko po ba? ISO yan. Pero bakit ang meaning yan? International Organization for Standardization. Bakit hindi iOS? To be honest, hindi ko rin alam ang sagot yan. Nung una kong ma-encounter yan, nagtanong din ako, bakit ISO yan? Hindi ba dapat iOS? Pero yun talaga ang kanila pong tawag dyan. And by the way, the country that initiated this organization is actually England. Galing po yan sa England. Kasi ang developer niyan, or ang implementer niyan, British. And it was in 1978 when it was initially launched. Tapos na-revise in 1984 na ang ginagawa ng OSI na yan is to describe a network architecture. Pag sinabi natin network architecture, may mga foundation po yan. That the very basic concept is to allow data to be passed between computer systems. And while never fully utilized as the model for a protocol, yung OSI model po is the standard for discussing kung paano yung networking gumagana. Or kung paano yung networking nagpa-process. At ayan po ang iba't iba niyang mga layers. So, unahin muna natin of course is yung application layer niya, no? Which is nasa pinakataas. Pang-pito po yan. So, technically, ito po yung mga somehow parang mga back-end programming, yung mga HTTP, mga file transfer protocol, etc. etc. And then, parang, ano din to, no? Parang, protocol nga ito eh. Kasi nga, gawa ng HTTP protocol yan. And DNS, also part of the protocol. Presentation, ayan, syntax layer naman ang representation niya. And SSL, ayan, FTP, kasama rin po. And any other multimedia files, pwede mong incorporate yan. Session is, ito naman yung parang pinaka-gateway, na kung saan pwede mong i-send to port, nakalagay dyan, send to port, no? Or utilize the way on how this process are being pushed through, no? And then transport, connection to, TCP, UDP, so means of transportation. So kung meron po tayong natawag na transferring, question is, sino nagtatransport niya? Ayan, yung transport po. Yung pang number 4 layer ang gumagawa niya. And then of course, we have the network, which eventually, ginagawa ng network na yan is, of course, meron siyang firewall that filter these data packets. And then of course, pati na rin po ng IP address kasama dyan. Kasi network yan. IP address technically is the location of the device dun po sa network. Address po yan. Parang bahay po yan. No, kung saan para malaman yung bahay mo, kailangan may address ka. And then we also have the data links that represents frames, Ethernet, PPP, switch, at saka bridge. So, parang mga devices po ang nire-represent naman ito. And then we have the physical structure, no, cross, fiber, wireless, etc. etc. Ito na yung parang setup or environment setup ng isang network. So, yan ang OSI model. Okay? And then, ayan, types ng iba't ibang hardware firewalls, pati na rin po ng kanilang mga characteristics. Meron ditong, if I'm not mistaken, 3 yata ang klase ng hardware firewall, no? So, tingnan natin dito. Ang hardware firewall is, of course, klase po yan ng software that runs on a dedicated platform. Hindi mo po yan magagamit sa isang, let's say, dongle or sa isang portable device, nasa isang dedicated platform po. Yan. Pag sinabing dedicated platform, huwag nyo nang pahirapan ang sarili ninyo sa pag-unawa, yan po ay server. Okay? And then, design sila for that particular platform. Kumbaga talagang doon lang sila gagana. Optimize and then harden. Because ito yung process ng pagsisecure ng system. Run the firewall application software. While there are many types of firewalls na merong iba't ibang characteristics, meron silang common function or commonalities. If I'm not mistaken, ang kanila pong commonalities is to filter the data traffic. Yung pag-filter ng data packet, yan ang kanilang common function. No? Palagay naman dito, firewall filters traffic based on a set of configured rules. May iba-iba kasing configuration kada isang firewall, no? Now, these rules are based on information contained doon sa data packets na nagta-travel across the network. So, pinipilter po talaga yan. And information contained in those data packets provides the firewall with the information it needs para ma-apply niya yung mga rules niya. So, ibig sabihin, ang data na pumapasok sa network, pag pinifilter yan ni firewall, at hindi yan nakapasa sa requirement ni firewall, hindi niya yan papayagang pumasok sa network. Okay? Ito pa isa, packet filtering. Part din yan ng basic function ng firewall. Ito yung first type of firewall, no? Ito yung unang klase ng firewall. Packet filtering firewall. It is considered as the first generation firewall because yung first firewall functions as packet filters. Mahirap ang trabaho nito. Kasi sasalain mo. Kung sobrang dami ng data na papasok dyan, talagang sobrang matrabaho yan. No? Because, yun na nga, ang primary purpose kasi ng firewall is to filter traffic. And then, packet filtering firewall inspects the data packets. Kung ang data packets ay magka-try na dumaan sa network or pumasok sa network, you have to undergo firewall inspection. And that inspection includes packet filtering. Okay? And based on the rules na define ng firewall has the ability to deny or allow each data packet na pumasok ng network. Okay? So, ito yung kanilang ito yung kanilang tools na ginagamit ng packet filtering. Ito yung tools na ginagamit niya para yung pagpipilter ng data successful. Ayan, merong source IP address, ang tawag dyan, class trajectory. Di ba? Ito ang ginagawa ng class ng mga cyber authorities to identify kung saan ang galing yung data. Inaalam nila yung trajectory ng transmission. So para malaman yung IP address nung nag-send ng data. Ayan, destination IP address pala. Source IP address, destination IP address, pareho lang po yan sila. And of course, yung IP protocol natin, maraming klase yan, no? So we have the Telnet, FTP, HTTP, HTTPS, and so on. Ang ginagamit natin commonly sa Pilipinas, HTTP at saka HTTPS. FTP, common yan. Sa Telnet, ginagamit yan ng mga Western countries, Europe, America, Australia, and New Zealand. No? Yan ang gamit nila. Source TCP, pati na rin po ng UDP ports. Sample, HTTP protocol that runs on a TCP port 80. Ano po ito, no? Criteria po ito ng mga port. So, meron ding ibang klase pa ng criteria ang TCP. But I think the common is TCP port 80. We also have the destination of this, TCP tsaka UDP ports. And then, meron din tayong inbound firewall, network interface, and meron din po tayong outbound. So, interface na po yan. You will be seeing possibly yung mga traffic logs, no? And then yung name ng data, source of data, pati na rin po yung size of data. Diyan mo makikita. So everything is being monitored. Kaya naman kung mapapansin niyo, may mga, let's say, may mga browser, no, na merong ability to not display the content of the website na binibisita mo. It's because na-determine nila na hindi po or harmful, may harmful content yung website na makaka-apekto sa network mo. Kaya hindi nila dinidisplay yan. Galing, di ba? Kung updated ang browser mo. Paano kung outdated na? Eh, wala na. Hindi mo na ma-avail yung ganong klaseng service. We also have the circuit level firewall. Ito po yung second generation ng firewall. Una, yung packet filtering. Tama ba? Pangalan niya, packet yan. Packet filtering po ang una. And then now, we have circuit level firewall. Okay? It works similarly doon sa packet filtering firewalls. Pero it operates at the transport and session layers of the OSI model. Ganda rin ang sequence na ito. Parang may pagka-AI ito. No? Instead of analyzing each packet, a circuit level firewall monitors TCP/IP. So yung mga pumapasok na yung mga pumapasok na mga sessions na somehow nag-access ng TCP/IP, ayan, minomonitor mo. Galing. Kaya nga may pagka-AI ito eh. Sessions by monitoring the TCP handshaking between packets para ma-validate yung session. Session meaning meron talagang legit source at meron din po yung assigned destination. Meron kasing mga transmission na parang walang address na pupuntahan. So, delikado yun. Ito meron na. Baka parang from the receiver going to the recipient, acknowledge na kagad ng network. Traffic is filtered based on specified session rules and may be restricted to authorized computers only. So, nag-a-apply pa rin yung packet filtering. Di ba? Eh, gano'n naman yan eh. Itong circuit level na to, second generation niya, automatic yan. Kung ano meron yung first generation, no? Or yung first type, meron din siya. Parang lang to, new version ng packet filtering. Okay? Ano pa? Meron pa isa, application level firewall. Ito, proxy servers po ang tawag din nila dito. Kasi parang backup server po ito in case na magkaroon ng problema. So, another server will take over. And it performs a deep inspection of application data habang nagta-travel yan doon sa firewall. So, ang lupit, no? Imagine the ability of the firewall to properly monitor and inspect the data traveling inside the network. Diba? Pinifilter na nga niya. Ito naman ang ginagawa, ini-inspect pa. Deep inspection. Matindi pa to sa ano class? Matindi pa sa checkpoint ito. Diba? Yung mga nakamotor dyan na sine-checkpoint sa highway, eh. Titingnan yung lisensya mo, titingnan yung rehistro mo. Ito, iba pa. Mas iba pa ang ano na ito. Tapos, if in case after the inspection nangyari na, then ang gagawin naman nito is to enforce correct application behavior. Ayun, may suggestion pa siyang ginagawa. Ang ganda, no? Kakaiba talaga yung ginagawa ng mga firewall na ito. Panoorin nga natin itong application firewall, proxy firewall. Kung ano ba ang ginagawa na ito.
So there's a lot of different ways to learn data, but most of them.
In this video, we're going to cover application proxy firewalls. The way that application proxy firewalls work is it's for a specific application, such as a web application, an FTP application, an SMTP application. So for example, a client is going to use their browser to connect to a web application. They're going to send an HTTP request to a server using their IP address. A proxy, such as an HTTP proxy, is going to scan the packets associated with this request. And if the packets look great, it's going to send the examined HTTP request packet onto the server. The server will then respond with its response. And then the HTTP proxy will then scan those packets, ensure that those are good, and then send the examined HTTP response packets back to the client. These application proxies can occur again on FTP or SMTP or various other applications that we want to have a proxy firewall installed. So the benefit of an application proxy is it's going to be able to scan packets as a whole to determine whether or not there are viruses that match certain signatures that are being sent over the network, etc. It is very slow. That's why the main border protection is Stateful Packet Inspection Firewall, but it does a good job on ensuring that we can examine at the application layer. So what protections do application proxy firewalls offer? Well, to the client, they protect against known attack sites. They also protect against scripts that could potentially cause harm, such as scripts that could download Trojans, etc. They protect against certain MIME types, so we could say that we don't ever want these types of files installed or downloaded onto our client. So for example, exe or JavaScript, because those could potentially be malicious files. Also, it would disable posting sensitive files, so in an organization they have a bunch of information that is protected, and they could have this information protected using signatures, so that when certain files are uploaded to be sent outside of the network would detect these signatures and disable this from happening. The server protections would work the opposite way, in that we don't want random users posting malicious files to our server, so we would disable those specific files from being posted, such as JavaScript or exe files, etc. Additionally, it would protect against SQL injection attacks. So if someone is maliciously manipulating SQL queries through forms, then a server could protect against that. Automated protections that are offered by application proxy firewalls include hiding internal IP addresses, additionally destroying headers and passing new headers, because sometimes headers can store malicious information, and then finally maintaining protocol fidelity, so ensuring that the port 25 is associated with our SMTP application, that port 80 is associated with our HTTP application, rather than something different.
Ang kalusugan ng mga bata sa malakas na immunity nagsisimula sa Lane.
In this video, we're going to cover application proxy.
Okay. So yun, ang ginagawa ng application proxy firewall na yan. Asa yung slide ko? Ba't nawala? Teka lang. Wala sa ano. Okay. Kasi yung ano pala. Teka. Nasa kabilang ano pala siya. Dito pala. Ayun. So, balik tayo dito ha. Application. Ayun. So next, so meron naman tayong multi-level firewalls. So ano naman ang ginagawa ng atin pong firewall na ito? Ang tawag din sa kanya is stateful multi-level firewalls. Na ang ginagawa niyan is provide the best features of both packet filtering and application level firewalls. So parang pinag-isa lang. Diba? Kaya nga sabi sa inyo, version lang po yan. And this type of firewall provides network level packet filtering and is also capable of recognizing and processing application data, level data. So kung ano yung ginagawa ng mga previous firewall versions, meron din siya. Now, if it is configured correctly, these firewalls can provide the highest level of security of the firewall types discussed, but are typically the most expensive firewalls. Hindi siya medyo cheap. Diba? Medyo costly siya. Sa bagay, lahat na ng features nasa iyo na. Talagang medyo pricey talaga yan. And in addition, with all the available features, they can also be very complex to configure and maintain. Ayun lang. So, mahirap talaga siyang i-reconfig. Of course, tatlong klase na po eh. Tatlong klase na ng iba't ibang firewalls ang kinompress mo into one singularity. No? Into a single type of multi-level firewall. Kaya naman mahirap na talaga siyang i-configure. Kaya siguro maganda niyan kung kabisado mo yung doon sa may packet filtering tapos application level and then punta ka sa circuit level and then before mo pag-aralan yung multi-level firewall. So ibig sabihin yan class, para maging magaling kang firewall administrator, kailangan mo munang daanan yung isa. Diba? Or kailangan mo munang pag-aralan yung isa. So, ngayon, nagkakaroon tayo ng idea na kung paano minamanage yung firewall. Kasi ang firewall kasi, ang idea natin dyan is, pag sinabi natin firewall, it protects the network lang. But the question is, ano ba talaga ang purpose ng isang firewall? Kaya ngayon, nagkakaroon na tayo ng idea kung ano ang ginagawa nila. Ito, panoorin din natin yung video nito. Dalawang klase ito, stateful versus stateless firewall.
Difference between stateful and stateless firewalls. You might already know firewall acts as a barrier between your network and potential threats from the outside world. They help keep your data safe and secure. Now there are two primary types of firewall, stateful and stateless. Let's break it down each one of them and understand the differences. First, let's take stateful firewalls. As the name suggests, these firewalls maintain a record or a state of the connections passing through them. They keep track of the context of each network packet, including the source IP, destination IP, ports, and connection status. Stateful firewalls use this contextual information to make more informed decisions about allowing or blocking network traffic. They analyze the entire packet, looking at the complete data flow, and can even perform deep packet inspection to identify potential threats or malicious activities. This type of firewall is situated at layer 3 and layer 4 of the Open System Interconnect or the OSI model. Check out my video series on OSI model and various protocols in each model. I'll link them on the video cards as well. Now let's move on to stateless firewalls. Unlike their stateful counterparts, stateful firewalls don't maintain any knowledge or memory of the past network connections. They evaluate each network packet individually without considering the historical context. Stateless firewalls primarily rely on predefined rules and access control lists to determine whether to allow or block these traffic. These rules are typically based on criteria such as source and destination IP addresses, ports, and protocol. They make quick decisions based solely on these predefined criteria. So now, what's the difference between, or so what are the advantages and disadvantages of each type? Well, stateful firewalls provide greater security by considering the entire data flow and context of network packets. They can detect and prevent certain type of attacks that stateless firewalls might miss. However, they also tend to be more resource intensive and can introduce some latency due to their analysis process. On the other hand, stateless firewalls are pretty lightweight, efficient, and very easy to configure. They're suitable for very simple network setups where only basic packet filtering is required. However, or they lack the sophisticated analysis or capabilities of stateful firewalls and might not catch more advanced or complex threats. Here's a quick table to explain the difference between stateful and stateless firewall. Stateful firewall, in terms of context, maintains a record or a state of connections passing through it, whereas a stateless firewall does not maintain any knowledge of past network connection. Stateful firewall for packet analysis, it analyzes the entire data flow and context of network packets. Whereas for stateless firewall, it evaluates each packet individually based on predefined rules. Stateful firewalls provides greater security by considering packet context, whereas stateless firewalls offers just basic filtering based on predefined rules. Stateful firewalls are more resource intensive and may introduce latency, whereas for stateless firewalls, as studied earlier, is lightweight and efficient and has very minimal impact on performance. Next, stateful firewalls are far more complex in terms of their setup and configuration, but in case of a stateless firewall, it is very easy to manage and configure. Lastly, it's the most important, stateful firewalls are suitable for more complex network setups and advanced threats. However, for stateless firewalls, it is suitable for simple networks and basic packet filtering. Now, ultimately, the choice between the stateful and stateless firewalls depends on your specific network requirements and security needs. In complex environments with high security demands, a stateful firewall is a much preferred choice. And for simple networks or scenarios where performance and simplicity is crucial, a stateless firewall might be sufficient. And there you have it, difference between stateful and stateless firewalls. But remember, network security is a crucial aspect for protecting your data, so choose the firewall that best suits your needs.
Ayun. Nagbigay pa ng advice si nag-provide ng video, no? So, tama naman din siya doon na pumili kayo ng firewall na talagang mapapakinabangan ng inyong network. Yun ang advice niya. Maganda explanation niya kaso lang parang, lasing yata yung, parang may tama yata yung nagbigay ng video. Okay. So, ito po. No, yun po yung ating natutunan pa doon sa explanation about doon sa stateful versus stateless firewall. Makapansin natin doon sa video, no? Mas efficient of course yung stateful kasi unang-una yung stateless wala siyang ability to monitor logs. Wala siyang history. No? So, which is, pangit yun. Diba? Hindi mo malalaman kasi kung ano yung, wala kang record, no, nung nangyaring activity doon sa network mo. Yun pa naman ang pinaka-importante. Okay, understanding when to use a hardware firewall instead of a software firewall. So, dalawang entities po yan, dalawang elements yan, pero pareho silang kailangan, di ba? Siyempre, saan naman gagana yung software kung walang hardware na i-install mo siya? Kailangan talaga, package po sila. So, under ng host firewall, meron tayong network firewall na meron pong mga category like host hardware, host operating system, and of course, yung mga applications na naka-install doon. Hindi lang naman OS lagi ang nandoon sa firewall. Siyempre, may mga ibang programs and application po yan. And let's not forget, no, to consider, of course, yung availability ng data, pati na po ng stability ng network. Pareho po yan dapat nandoon, present at all times. Okay. Now, moving on, another topic po ito, VLANs pa rin po ito. Pero siyempre, network pa rin ang network pa rin ang concern natin dyan. Alam na natin kung paano nagre-regulate ang isang local area network. Kasi we have been doing this in our activities using packet tracer. Diba? So, gumagawa tayo ng mga network doon. Pero VLANs kasi is virtual LAN po ito. So, technically, ito po ay isang wireless connection. Yung inyong mga router, yung inyong mga Wi-Fi, yan, mga nakabilan yan. So, define muna natin si network. It covers a small physical area. Totoo naman yan. Hindi mo pwedeng ilabas yan. No? Kagaya ng office, floor in a building, small group of buildings. Nalala niyo yung ating activities about router. Diba? 4 na building yung ginawa natin doon. Tupit, diba? Kasi 4 yun. And sila ang ginagamit to connect multiple hosts, kagaya po ng switch, and of course, router. These LANs are then connected to other LANs using a router, which is a layer 3 device. And isa sa mga challenges ng LAN, as they grow larger, is that each device on each LAN subnet broadcast traffic onto the subnet. So, technically, may idea na rin po tayo dito. Diba? Na pagka yung isang network, ang dami niyang hino-host ng mga devices, nagkakaroon talaga ng traffic yan. Tapos, mabagal pa ang broadcast or yung transmission ng data, which is not a good network design. Totoo naman yan, di ba? Kailangan mo lagyan ng iba pang mga host yan para magkaroon ng subnet. Yan, nakaraan nating activity subnet po yan. Now, while these broadcasts will not cross a router, if there are enough hosts, yan, the aggregate broadcast traffic can saturate a network. And one solution is to deploy more routers. Switch, pwede rin. As a way to divide the network into more manageable segments. Router talaga. Ang switch kasi, mag-expand yan. Pero yung router, nag-create yan ng subnet, no? Or network. Now, VLANs was developed as an alternate solution to deploy multiple routers. Ang galing. And then VLANs are logical network segments used to create separate broadcast domains. Pero it still allowed the devices on the VLANs to communicate at layer 2 without requiring a router. So, meron pa rin direct communication. Doesn't mean na naglagay ka na ng router, magkakaroon na ng parang division. Hindi po, meron pa rin siyang direct communication. Yun ang ginagawa ng VLAN. Okay? Now, si routing naman, pag sinabi nating routing, somehow parang i-transfer lang natin ng ibang area. Or magke-create lang tayo ng ibang area para magkaroon ng ibang way ang traffic. It's like creating a new road, no? Para, for example, yung main road, nagka-plug na dyan, sobrang traffic na dyan, gawa ka ng ibang daan para magkaroon ng alternate route. Okay? So, nasa layer 3 po siya, and it is the process of forwarding a packet based on the packet's destination address. And each step in the route a packet takes across the network is a decision that has to be made about where the packet is to be forwarded. Ayun, yung binabanggit ko kanina. If you create another type of road, no? Or area na kung saan dadaan yung traffic, doon pino-forward yung iba pang mga data packets. And to make this decision, the IP layer consults a routing table stored in the memory. Ayan, kasi router yan. Kaya meron po yung routing table. Routing table entries are created by default when TCP/IP initializes, and then additional entries are added either manually by a system administrator or automatically through communication with routers. Ang galing ng routers, no? Kaya nga, di ba, kung maalala ninyo dun sa ating last lesson about router is considered to be an intelligent device. Kung naalala niyo pa po yan. No? So, paano ba gumagana ang isang router? Now, pagka nakaka-receive ng packet si router na kailangang i-forward dun sa pupuntahang host or destination, the router needs to make a decision. Kaya nga tinawag itong intelligent device because of its ability to decide. Kailangan niyang ma-determine if it can deliver the packet directly to the destination host or kailangan itong i-forward yung packet na yan doon sa iba pang router. So, mag-decide yung router na yan kung pwede na ba niyang hayaang tumuloy yung packet doon sa destination or ipo-forward pa niya sa iba pang router yan. Bakit kaya ginagawa yun, sir? Well, ang sagot lang dyan ay traffic. For example, may papasok na panibagong packet. Ang problema, yung way na yan, traffic na. So, ang gagawin ng router, may intelligent yan, di ba? Intelligent device siya. Inalagay niya yan sa ibang router. Doon ka dumaan, maluwag doon. Huwag na dyan kasi traffic na dyan. Klaro? Klaro po? Okay. Next. We're down to 2 slides. Ito, IDS, no? Tsaka yung IPS. Ito, napag-usapan na rin natin ito nung mga early part ng ating midterm. So, si IDS, Intrusion Detection System, at saka si IPS, which is Intrusion Prevention System, are the 2 other security technologies available para ma-secure yung networks, no? In any form of an attack. Pero ang ginagawa nitong mga ito, class, is to monitor lang. To monitor lang the attack that is going on. Kasi nga, although kaya sabihin natin, well, pag na-monitor naman yan, recorded yan. Pero yung administrator, paano kung hindi naman present doon sa mismong interface ng server, hindi niya minomonitor. For example, nag-lunch break. No? Nag-lunch break yung administrator. Tapos doon nangyari yung atake. Si IDS, along with the IPS, ilalag niya. Or bibigyan niya ng alert si administrator that somehow the network is being breached or being attacked. Ang problema, hindi present yung administrator doon. So wala pa rin. The attack will continue. Okay? And nakalagay nga dyan, no? IDS is a solution designed to detect unauthorized user activities. To detect lang po, not to prevent. Kasi kagaya ng sinabi ko sa inyo, there is no way for us to prevent an attack because hindi natin alam kung kailan mangyayari yung attack. You get the idea? Okay. So, ganun lang po yun, di ba? Hindi talaga maiiwasan ang attack. But, pwede nating ma-detect ang atake. Yung IPS naman is very similar kay IDS, except that in addition to detecting and alerting, IPS can also take action to prevent the breach from occurring. Ito maganda yung IPS. Meron siyang pwedeng gawing action para possible niyan na ganito yan. Pag halimbawa may nangyaring attack, magre-respond kagad si IPS, magpo-provide ng security. Pero paano kung masyadong malakas yung atake? So yung security na ipoprovide ni IPS, mawawalang saysay din. Pero pag merong intervention ng administrator, mas patitibayan niya pa yung prevention system ni IPS, mas maganda. Ang problema nga lang kasi, kung hindi present yung administrator, you have to understand na yung atake kadalasan nangyayari yan pag wala ng tao sa office. Tama? Kung ikaw yung attacker, aatake ka during working hours? I don't think so. Mahihirapan ka yan. Kasi alam mo na naka-full alert ang mga administrators. Pero kung wala ng tao sa office, yan. Diyan nangyayari kadalasan yung attack. Pero imposibleng mawala ng tao yan. But, I mean, what I'm trying to say is, hindi na monitor 24/7 yung network. Kaya nagkakaroon talaga ng major attacks na nangyayari. No? Merong dalawang klase ng IDS at saka IPS technologies. So, we have the network base. Yan, kung naka-install sila sa network, possible. Yung IDS at IPS. Ito naman, kailangan merong close monitoring talaga ng administrator. Ito. Kasi, yung host base, wala ka nang poproblemahin dyan. Bakit? Merong provider ng IDS, IPS. So, basically, yung security ng network mo, nakadepende ka na doon sa provider. May nagmo-monitor na. Itong network-based, there has to be a physical administrator present in the office. Yun ang difference ng dalawa. Yung host-based, meron ka ng provider niya. Ibig sabihin, yung service na in-offer ng provider niya, binabayaran mo. Di ba? Ganon din naman sa network-based kasi may mga empleyado ka. Alright? Paano kung paano kung yung opisina mo hindi naman 24/7 ang operation niya. Pero for some reason, kailangan naka-up ang server. Hindi mo pwedeng i-down ang server. Ang kaso, office hours nga lang. Di ba? Wala nang tao sa office. Pag, let's say, mga around 6 p.m. wala nang tao sa office. Sino mag-monitor ngayon ng network? Ayan. So, siguro, maganda. Host-based na ang i-avail mo. At least, somewhere from other parts of the world, no, merong nagpo-provide ng security or merong nagmo-monitor ng network mo. Okay. And last slide, we have understanding network sniffing. Yung sniff, yung pag-amoy-amoy ba? Pero technically, yung network sniffing kasi, software po yan. No? Software yan na ginagamit as a tool for network administrators responsible for maintaining networks and identifying network issues. So, ibig sabihin, pagka ito inactivate nila, malalaman nito, no, yung mga network issues na nangyari. So, it's kind of a monitoring log software, no? It involves a connecting device to the network with the appropriate software, software, to allow access to the details of the packets traversing the network. So technically, ang ginagawa ng software na yan is ina-access yung details ng mga data packets na dumadaan sa network. Galing, no? Meron ng monitoring, meron ng filtering, tapos ito naman ngayon, yung details naman ng packet, inaalam niya. No? Okay, meron tayong last video dito. Tingnan natin to about network sniffer.
When you write, your tone influences how readers respond. With Grammarly, just highlight your text and type how you...
A sniffer is a software or hardware tool that allows the user to sniff or monitor your internet traffic in real time, capturing all the data flowing to and from your computer. Watch on to learn how sniffers work, what they're used for, and how you can protect your data against sniffing attacks. Sniffers aren't always bad news. In many cases, administrators use sniffing tools to maintain a steady flow of traffic through their networks. They can detect bandwidth hogs, such as anyone making heavy use of file-sharing programs, and then take appropriate action. The word sniffer, with a capital S, refers to the trademark name, now owned by NetScout, of one such monitoring tool. But if you're asking what a sniffer attack is, you're probably less concerned with legitimate applications of sniffing technology and more with how someone might be using that technology against you. These devious little programs go by a variety of names: network probes, wireless sniffers, Ethernet sniffers, packet sniffers, packet analyzers. But no matter what you call them, they all get up to the same mischief, eavesdropping on you. Sniffers get the job done by capturing and inspecting the data packets traveling along a network. Imagine internet traffic like real-world traffic. It's like a series of cars driving on a road, and it ebbs and flows depending on a variety of factors. On the internet, each car is a packet, and the people inside are the data it carries. Some sniffers are available as hardware appliances, often built directly into network devices, such as routers for convenient management, but in most cases, people opt for sniffing software over hardware. When first created, sniffers were and still can be very helpful tools for engineers to manage their networks. Because they allow administrators to view all the traffic on a network, they can be used to diagnose issues and assess performance. How do network admins use sniffing software? First, it's important to understand how internet traffic generally works over a network. In most situations, your computer will only investigate packets that have been specifically addressed to it. Reaching back to the cars driving on a road metaphor, we can imagine your computer as a house along that road. You wouldn't need inspect every car that drives by your house, but if someone parks in your driveway, you'd likely be inclined to open the door to see who it is. This is how your computer treats most packets of data. It ignores the ones going along the network to other destinations while inspecting the packets that are sent to it. Sniffing software adjusts a computer's network settings so that it sniffs every packet, instead of those just sent to it, and copies them all for later investigation. Rather than answering the door only when someone comes to visit, the sniffer is glued to the window watching all cars as they drive by. Our window sniffer might obsessively monitor every car, or they might choose to investigate only trucks or red cars or cars with at least 3 occupants, or maybe just motorcycles. In other words, a person using a sniffer in unfiltered mode can harvest all the network's traffic, or they can configure the sniffer to filter packets containing a specified type of data. Skilled technicians place sniffers inside a network to tap into its traffic and track what's being sent. You've probably seen at least one movie in which a crafty detective puts a tap on a suspect's phone line and listens in as they discuss all sorts of nasty business. Sniffers are essentially the same thing but for the internet. Here's a short list of people who might make use of network sniffers. Network engineers, by analyzing the type of and level of traffic on a network. Engineers can use the data to optimize their network structure for efficiency and speed. System admins. Network sniffers are amazing troubleshooting tools. Sysadmins can dive into bottlenecks or other slowdowns as they're happening to examine the issue. Employers. IT technicians at a corporate office may use sniffers to monitor their employees while at work. Employers can learn about the websites their workers are visiting, how much time they spend there, and whether they're viewing or downloading anything they shouldn't be. Security professionals. Unusual traffic amounts or types can indicate that everything is not as it seems. Security teams can identify atypical internet usage patterns that may indicate the presence of a hacker or malware. Network sniffers aren't only used by good guys. Unfortunately, cyber criminals can tap into a network and help themselves to all the traffic sent through it. By monitoring internet use, including emails and instant messages, a hacker may be able to access login credentials, insider information, and financial details. That's why sniffers can be so dangerous in the wrong hands, and there are plenty of free sniffers available online. Music to a cybercriminal's ears, unfortunately. Cybercriminals will use social engineering tricks or phishing scams to fool their victim into downloading their sniffers. They may steer targets to infected websites that automatically download the sniffer when visited, or send emails with attachments that can install the malicious software. Alternatively, hackers can sniff unsecure public Wi-Fi networks, ensnaring the traffic of anyone who uses them. Wireless sniffers are especially popular in spoofing attacks, as the cybercriminal can use the data captured by the sniffer to spoof a device on the wireless network. We've covered what sniffers can do, but how does a sniffer work? There are 2 main types of sniffing techniques, passive and active sniffing. The type of sniffing technique used depends on the structure of the network one is trying to sniff. Passive sniffing works with hubs, but if switches are involved, active sniffing is required. Hubs are simple networking devices that connect several devices together into a single network. There aren't any regulatory mechanisms that steer traffic to its intended recipient. Rather, all traffic devices receive all the traffic and then determine whether or not that traffic is relevant. Because all devices in a hub receive all the network's traffic, a sniffer can easily and passively soak up everything that's being sent. There's nothing to actually do other than sit back and sniff. This makes passive sniffing very difficult to detect. Not impossible, but difficult. As you connect additional devices to a hub, the higher levels of traffic can get overwhelming. Network switches are the solution to this issue. Switches regulate traffic within a network by sending data specifically to the device that is meant to receive it. A passive sniffer on a network hub will be able to see only the data going to and from its host machine. This is where active sniffing comes into play. In order to access all the traffic passing through the network, an active sniffer needs to get around or overcome the way switches direct everything. There are a few different ways to accomplish this, but all of them involve injecting additional traffic into the network. This is what makes it an active process and what differentiates active sniffing from the passive variety. The upside for potential victims is that an active sniffer is easier to detect because it gives its own presence away. We have reached the end of part 1, guys. Make sure to stay tuned for
Ayun. So, yun ang nagagawa ng packet sniffing. Meron siyang meron siyang mga pros and cons. Yung isa rin natawa ko yung employer mo daw pagka gumagamit ng network sniffing. Pwede niya malaman kung anong ginagawa mo sa computer mo, no? Kung ano yung mga website na binibisita mo, kung ano yung mga dina-download mo, kung ano yung ginagawa mo sa computer mo. Kung yung may-ari ng kumpanya ganun ang management style niya. Which is mostly not a regular case, pero mamaya magtrabaho kayo, ganun ang ma-encounter ninyong amo. Kaya siguro bottom line here is, pagka kayo nagtrabaho na sa corporate world, make sure na ang gagawin lang ninyo is yung trabaho ninyo, not any other thing around, no? Para secured ang inyo pong employment. Okay, so there you have it. Week 12 and 13 po yan. So natapos natin po ito. So expect to have a quiz next meeting po. Okay? So with this, I'd like to say thank you for listening and see you on face-to-face man or online, kung ano man ang ating maging sequence. I'll be seeing you again next meeting. Bye everybody.